people are saying in the public, but what can we do?
Yes, of course.
That's always the question people say, and usually the answer is not appropriated.
Or it comes from far away, like Latin America, or it's better in Europe, it's better in Latin America. It's
or
better...
what they do in India, what they do whatever.
And then we saw that there is, a lot of things are happening in Western world, in the United States and Canada.
Yes.
And so we decided to tour our world to find what was going on
today
here,
and what is working today.
Yeah, and what we could replicate and what was like really effective.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moments. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm on a little island off of Vancouver Island with two people that have taken adventures all over this continent. I'm with Charlotte, Camille, and Marcus the Bus. Now, Marcus the Bus is not just any old school bus. It's been converted to a place for family to live, which it has, right? It's a transition bus, as in the transition movement. Right? That's happening all over the planet?
Yes.
So I would like to take an adventure ride on Marcus the Bus with Charlotte and Camille and talk about their adventures on the continent, visiting other folks with this kind of thinking. Can we do that?
Yeah,
yes.
Sure. Welcome.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's fun. You converted this bus, so you all lived in it. You did with 2 children? Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Looks like a cozy house. It was your house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what is the transition bus? I mean, what did you do? What is this?
Whoa. The idea was to find alternative, concrete. How can we have another world?
Another world, right? Yeah.
Another organization of the economy, another organization of society, of power, less inequality.
Inequality. Yes, right.
And more empowerment, etc. So we were reading a lot, and before we've been involved in South America with indigenous people, which was very great and amazing experience, but we wanted to know what was going on where we live.
And you were living at a time where?
In Montreal.
In Montreal,
yeah.
All right, okay.
And so where we live was then all North America.
Yeah, it's Western world.
Sure,
like what's
of course.
going on in the Western world.
And we were never satisfied with all the answer we have. You know, when you do an event and you denounce,
yes.
one big injustice or whatever, and then people are saying in the public, but what can we do?
Yes, of course.
That's always the question people say, and usually the answer is not appropriated.
Or it comes from far away, like Latin America, or it's better in Europe, it's better in Latin America. It's
what
better...
they do in India, what they do whatever.
And then we saw that there is, a lot of things are happening in Western world, in the United States and Canada.
Yes.
And so we decided to tour our world to find what was going on
today
here,
and what is working today.
Yeah, and what we could replicate and what was like really effective.
Mostly in sort of, let me say, in what is working and effective in what way? Because you were activists, very concerned for indigenous peoples, but what were you looking for?
Simply how to organize society.
I mean, how we all live together?
How we all live together.
How do we decide?
How do we feed ourselves?
Yeah.
Feed ourselves, yes.
How the economy is organized, the exchanges between people and groups and villages, or...
Yeah, so the idea is very large, as you can see.
How do we educate our kids?
Yes.
How do we
build our houses? How do we
How do we like what is the health? How are organized the healthcare? What kind
Yes.
of medicine?
So yeah,
It's
so
like
it's
really
broad.
wide. Like
Wide.
we want to see.
Mhm.
We really want to see a different world. So really, really different from what it is now.
Did you have a vision of what the world you would want to live in, what that would look like? Or is this simply to see, are there other possibilities elsewhere that other people are trying, and the bus was a way to...
It's a back and forth stuff, because we have a lot of theory background, and it's good to see how concretely is gonna work. And so then we have this empiric experience,
Yes.
and then so it changed the first.
Yes,
Fed
yes,
ourselves
yes,
like
of
wow,
course.
that
So it's-
exists that way and it works that way. It's a bit different from the theory, but it works. So
Okay,
let's
yes,
you know
yes.
feed
And
ourselves
also
and
another
propagate
point,
ideas.
we really wanted to focus on was the collective thing. We didn't want to visit individuals in alternatives, because this is yet well documented, and yet it is important, but the next step would be like what we can do all together.
Yes, as a
So-
small village or a neighborhood or a group, or the collective.
So we
work.
didn't visit so many, off-the-grid people, and we wanted, if we visited communities, they had to have kind of link or program to spread their idea into the general
the mainstream world.
mainstream world or the outside world, and not be exclusive.
So you're
that-
looking at the social level, the community level of what will I say, alternative way of living, alternative society.
Yes.
So being concrete for a moment, when did you set out on your adventure? How far did you go? And we'll get back to some of the journeys.
Yeah,
How
so
long
the
did you
first
travel?
the first time we traveled with this general idea, we've been to Peterborough and
Peterborough in
Ontario.
thank
and
you.
then we met Fred Irwin and his
One of the initiator of Transition Town.
Transition Town in Peterborough. Now,
Yeah.
we should stop and let folks know the transition movement, which was initiated in the UK by Rob Hopkins, to have towns become more, what will I say?
Resilient.
Good word. Resilient with the becoming changes in the whole planet, and has spread to the United States, to Canada, Australia, other countries. So you were beginning in Peterborough, Ontario. That transition group, is that right?
yeah, and
Okay.
so we met them and we found a lot of the answer of the transition is very wide.
It addresses
Wide.
all different kind
Yes,
of
it does,
issues in communities, and it's there are two main things that just appealed us, was that it's local, and we need to relocalize the activities, the exchanges. Now it's way too global, so it's hard to have to take decision about what we want. So when it's more local, you have better way to understand the world which is around you, and then to decide what you want in your own community. And also it was not based on a solution made by the government. One of the thing is transition must come from the people in the community,
And so
organizing by themselves and finding way to empower all the people of the community. So we have all the way to decide, to talk, to have our own voice in the community, rather than one people or two people.
yes, right. So it's not representative. It's you're trying to have everybody involved. Well, participatory democracy
Yes.
is one phrase for that, or
Yeah, kind of.
so on. So okay.
So that's where we just decide, oh, that's interesting.
And Fred Irwin was very inspiring too.
Yeah.
He's very intelligent, and we had a very interesting conversation. And so then we wanted to visit more and more places like that. And so we had just one kid at that time, at that moment, and we said, okay, we will need something to move. And so Fred just invent the word. He said, "Oh, you would need a transition bus."
Transition bus.
We were like, okay, right on.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Although we didn't want just to visit transition towns. The idea was
Okay.
more or broader than that. Like what's going on all around, but not
Anyway.
only transition, because transition network is already like well set up, and so we wanted to see different things.
But we wanted to see experiences that could, inspire the transition movement also.
When did you leave to begin to meet other
Well,
visit other communities?
So we spent a year and a half to build the bus,
Yes.
to convert the bus.
We
what
sympathize.
you see here.
Yes, and you can, it's
Yeah.
a house.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a house. So it was a long time because we wanted to make it like to recollect the most possible material we could.
And we had no
Salvaged
money.
material.
We had
had
not
no
enough money.
Right.
We had time, but we had a baby, so so it's a strange time. And then also we wanted to figure out some like environmental solutions for the bus. So it was, it takes time to design. and
Sure,
to
if you're going to be ecological,
find the
it's
material you want and
Yes.
stuff. So it took us a year and a half to build it. Then we traveled for half a year to make some movies, discuss with people, and then we came back to Montreal for another 6 months where we presented what we found and what nourished us during the travel. And then we start another
A second trip.
a second trip that led us here
Yeah,
to
on
being
Denman. So
on
another
the other
6
side
months.
of the country.
So now we
country.
are,
So it was like a year on the road
in two different segments.
Yeah.
Yes.
in 2 segments.
If you were going to give us highlights of, the year on the road,
Mhm.
what communities did you find, or what experiments did you find that sort of said, that's the right direction? What did you find any?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Where?
yeah.
Where? What
Yeah.
were they doing?
You won't believe us.
Really?
We just went straight to the first time from Montreal to down the south.
Into the south.
So we
Florida.
so we've been to the Keys.
Wow. All right.
And that was very funny because everybody was not expecting us to go to the Keys. They were like, "What?
What are you gonna
What's
found?
happening in the
doing?
Florida
Are you
Keys,
just,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Are you just having fun or what?"
Yeah, that's what we were
And
doing.
Holiday.
and so we arrived at that point, but it was more like symbolic for us to go at the
Southernmost point of
southernmost part.
America.
Yes. Yes.
And then going, and then over there were this little great community garden, and we just talk with them like we are doing now and explaining our purpose, and then they give us such a big list of contacts
Activists and people
people
working
and
really on their own community,
Right, in their
building
own community?
different things in different places around Florida.
And so we saw the hidden part of the hidden part of the
Florida.
of the Keys, yeah. And there are a lot of people doing incredible stuff for the community, and they are struggling to change the way it is totally dying because of tourism and
Because it's always the same logic. It's not local.
Sure.
Jobs
Tourists are
jobs
not.
are in the Keys. People who are working for those jobs come from the mainland in Florida to work in the restaurants, and the services are not for the locals. They are for the tourists. So nothing is local. And then people who are living there in the Keys are just, they can't find jobs.
Oh,
That's
okay. all right.
And then the prices of the properties goes up and up,
And they can afford to buy, in their
well,
own land.
they have their own family houses most of
Right.
the time, but then they can't afford to pay the taxes for the land because the land is very expensive. And then they say, oh, we have that property, it's very expensive, so let's sell it, and we'll buy a much cheaper, bigger house on the mainland. So then the locality is just dying of that logic, and people who are here from centuries are just leaving that, and so the culture is becoming like lighter and lighter, so that it's just destroyed the locality instead
Right,
of
no.
making it stronger. And that's what we saw everywhere. That's what's happening everywhere because things are not local.
Meaning, what I picture when you say that is I picture things like the restaurant franchises that you see all across the landscape, and the particular uniquenesses of a community are being taken over by the big box stores or the big restaurants or whatever. Is that
and the
part of
jobs
it?
too.
And the
The
jobs are
they
being
don't employ people from the land.
right.
They are employing people from the mainland, from Florida. So they do like, I don't know, 100 kilometers,
Every
150
day.
kilometers to come to work, where the local people don't have work. So I don't understand that logic.
Just to serve tourists and
Yeah.
and then go back home, and so it was very interesting
Yeah.
to have
And
that
that's-
point of view of,
Yes,
of
yes.
Florida.
So
And
how
of
we
the
can
case.
reorganize economy?
I would say the economy is a central part of this.
And that's
Yes.
the same thing here on Denman, where here you can find houses for $500,000, $1 million,
Yes.
and then we arrived at the family, and we couldn't find anything to rent. It was either too
All
expensive,
Too expensive.
or of course not to buy.
right.
So
Right.
just why? Because the land doesn't belong to the local people. The land belongs to the rich people outside. So it's not local.
Most of the
Most of-
properties
most
are
of the-
second.
A second home
And they are
Right.
empty all year round. Some people just come here just 1 week
for vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
in the year.
So what you're
then
talking about-
there is no economy.
Again, the economy is based on money from outside
Yes.
or jobs from outside. I mean, I think that's happening a lot of places in America. Did you in your travels find communities where they're wrestling with that and trying to reverse that?
Yes.
Where?
Like we could talk about OSBG, or where it's in New Orleans. It's a urban farm, but it's also an educational center. The idea was, after Katrina, they wanted to build something else and to educate the kids, because there were no schools, nothing for the kids. So they started to like kind of after school program, but for the elder kids. And then they started to work with them. It was hard, as it is all the time when you work in hard districts or poor neighborhood. And then they decided, we can't live only on grants, so we have to figure out something else. And they started a farm to sell some gardening products to the restaurants in New Orleans. So they started a kind of businesses with the neighborhood people. So they were selling to the neighborhood, producing food with the neighborhood, educating the kids as well on the situation and how to make to relocalize the economy again. So that's a great project there. So it started in 2000 and just after Katrina, so 2006, I guess.
6, yeah.
Something like that.
Katrina was 5.
And that's one of the biggest alternatives who stayed in New Orleans after 1 or 2 years, longer than that. So
And it took a catastrophe, if you will, to really point out that need, and what they did was a solution that worked for many people. It's like in their community, including the basic thing of providing food or producing food.
Yeah. because the land was cheap. So
They
because
were able
everything
to afford
was
And
tough.
empty.
Right.
And it's empty, so there is one house for 4 lots. So you can find one house, and then on the 3 other lots you can produce food.
Okay, got it.
So it started like that. And then, of course, they're a group of 5 people or something like that. And they really want not only to produce food, and that's where it's more than that. It's also a kind of political experiments. Like they wanted to educate people, like what's going on outside of the farm. Why there is only one farm like that, where we could have 100 of them.
Right.
Why
do
do
not?
you go to Walmart instead of
Yeah.
buying food here? So that's was really powerful where we met those people in New Orleans.
But still, yeah, in the Keys we met some this producer of biofuel. By the way, yeah, we did the tour with biofuel.
Oh yes, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Most of the time we
most of the time.
Yeah.
And we try to
biodiesel.
biodiesel.
Right.
Yeah, we try to select the producer and be sure where the fuel come from and how it is processed.
You can have it from
the big
Philippines,
boys,
or you can have it from people who are recollecting waste oil and producing their own biodiesel.
So, I mean, part of that is your own your ecological consciousness to try and walk your talk, if you will, to walk your values, to live your values. Can you give me just another last story of something that you found astounding or inspiring or something you'd want to model in your own lives?
Yeah, of course you have this old community called Twin Oaks.
In Virginia?
In Virginia, and that was a very amazing experience.
Yeah.
We stayed three weeks, and we could see how they organize themselves and how it is a living utopia.
Yeah.
It's an intentional community.
Yeah, it is.
100 members.
100 members. It's been there for quite a long time. Yeah, 45 years.
Yeah.
And they're one. I mean, there are many communities have started up. They're one that's lasted a long while.
Yeah.
And they're very thriving, and every day they have all this organic food. This
on the table, sharing all
so
this
crazy.
Food,
and the woods and everything is beautiful, and the way they organize the work is so.
Everything's collective,
efficient,
and there is no money in the community. So they live. You could go there and live for a year without money, and you will have a work, a home, a healthcare system, a pension system too, and vacations, and you work only 42 hours a week, everything included, like shopping, cleaning your house, preparing food, and of course growing your own food, working in the factory. There is a factory for hammocks and
so they have
tofu.
a product, they have a source of income.
So they sell product outside, so there is money somewhere.
I mean, it's got to be.
You're in the world, so you have to.
You have to be taxes.
No,
like
they're
everyone
not
else.
self-sufficient. I mean,
but they produce like 70 or 80% of their own food, and then they exchange some food with other communities.
To get
And the base unit of exchange is hour. So if you work 1 hour to produce, let's say vegetables, then they need peanut butter. So some other community will produce peanut butter. So making one pot is 1 hour of work. So they will just have one pot for the amount of vegetable that they produce in 1 hour.
The exchanges that they're doing on the outside, you're saying, are also
with other communities.
With other communities.
No, everything is accessible in the community. You can.
Yes, I meant, but the exchanges outside of their community
if they
or
need
with
something
other
that
communities,
they don't produce,
they've agreed upon.
Yes.
And that an hour is to an hour for an equal exchange
for
kind of.
Everything. Yeah.
I see. Sounds to me like, I mean, the energy shifted for you both when you talked about that. It sounds like a place. You said it was a utopia.
But it's a real one. I mean, it's
but
working.
It's
working.
45 years.
And it's working well.
So did that spark a view for you? I'd like to live in a place like that.
Oh yeah, well yeah, not like that, not like this one,
inspired
but
by that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Really, like more collective.
The more you
owning things, even land.
Because the more sources you pull together, then the more you have.
And the less work you produce because it's all together.
Because it's shared.
So you don't need maybe you don't need the washing machine. Every 24 hours you have it, you own it. So just sharing, the more resources and the more you will have access to. And for land, for cars, for
companions for your kids.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, there are eco-villages and intentional communities, co-housing, lots of forms for this, different structures for how they govern themselves. Back to when we were tribes, when we had larger groups of people living together.
And finally, they decide what they would produce, how they will organize, what work they're gonna do. They don't have, it's not harsh work with the boss and telling you
there is everybody's
everybody's equal. So they have a really good quality of life in that sense too.
They have a democratic system which works really well.
A cooperative, sort of self-governing.
Yeah.
In their work and in their lives together. Sounds like great models.
The other trip, the second trip, was more focused on worker-owned cooperatives and the cooperative movement. So we found a lot all around the trip, like in Austin, in Texas, and then in California. You hear the kids. And so the idea is to come back to California and making people together, which is one of our idea, like make people meet each other.
Bring people together?
Even though they don't come from the same background or to the same idea. So like putting people from the transition with people from the worker-owned cooperative all together and work to different solutions, like bringing the energy issue to the cooperative and the degrowth or the steady state economy to the worker-owned cooperative, and bringing the economy and the culture of cooperation and mutualism to the transition.
Great.
So that's the idea of our next trip, to going back to Northern California in Sebastopol and the Bay Area, and make.
But it's for us to be inspired, but also the video we use them for workshops, and in itself the video is not it's not professional and is not telling the whole story, and how we use it is Camille is doing a workshop, and then it's material for people to participate and start to think and just asking questions and have just the vision that something else is possible, and that I can organize differently and organize my life. The way I'm living is not the only
end of
truth or the only.
Yes, it's one.
Because sometimes people are just very agreed. They say, "Oh my God, I didn't know."
Yeah, I didn't know.
Part of what you're doing, it sounds like, is the workshop, and here's some of what's possible. Here's what other people are doing, and you are cross-pollinating. You are seeding ideas for people. Well, I am going to wish you well. I think that's to go back to the fertile ground of California, to look at the cooperatives, the worker-owned opportunities, and bring that together with transition. I love that. Bringing, getting communities who might not be even in touch with each other to be sharing and seeing what can arise from that. Yeah. Thank you. Good luck. Good journeys. And thanks for getting to see us. You're watching Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm with Camille and Charlotte, who are the Transition Bus. Look for more adventures.